How to have grit. So, grit is kind of an interesting topic because I feel like it's just a buzzword to describe doing hard things and suffering and pain. And it has a positive association almost. People are like, yeah, bro, just have more grit. This dude has a lot of grit. And they're typically referring to people that are doing hard things. And I feel like the side that most people try to avoid and try to not talk about is the pain and the suffering, right? Grit is, by definition, the experience of pain and suffering, right? Regardless of the outcome that you're trying to attain, grit is the experience of pain and suffering. It's the enduring of pain and suffering, right? That is, at least that's the way I would operationalize grit. And so, I mean, I love that definition, honestly. Like, it feels more realistic. It feels more like attainable. Like, that makes a lot more sense to me than just like the typical positive associations that grit has. You know, like it's a buzzword that we just need to operationalize, and this is the way I'm going to do it. Right? It's enduring pain and suffering, and so if that is our definition of grit, then how do we have it? How can I have grit? Right? First principle is go to the gym or do something physically hard. It's not complicated. I mean, think about the scenarios where grit is typically a word used to describe somebody. It's typically used to describe an athlete or a laborer or someone that's really running themselves to the ground, like an entrepreneur almost, right? Somebody that's really working their butt off to achieve something, to serve somebody else, or um, to win the gold medal, right? It takes grit. And so if you want to have this, if you want to replicate the conditions of grit, then you need to put your body into a gym and surround yourself with weights and start lifting them. Start lifting the weights and put yourself on a track and start running. Like, create an environment where it is easy to embrace grit, right? Because it's hard to have grit whenever you're just laying around on the couch. When you're watching this YouTube video, it's hard to just like bring yourself into that state of mind where you have grit. You need to put yourself into the gym, put yourself on the track, put yourself in the boxing ring, put yourself on the trail, whatever it is, right? You create an environment that is conducive to you having to endure pain and suffering, and you will have grit. It's not complicated. The next principle is to go above and beyond pain. So I said that the definition or our operationalizing of grit is the enduring of pain and suffering. And what I mean by enduring is not necessarily meeting the pain and equal like negating it and being an equal opposite to it, but going beyond it, right? Enduring means to go beyond pain and suffering. So if we want to further our definition of grit, it's to go above and beyond our pain and suffering, right? That is a better definition of grit. To endure, right, means to go above and beyond. And when you do this to your pain and suffering, when you realize that this thing hurts, this thing is scary, I feel uncomfortable, I don't want to do this, I want to quit, I want to run away, I want to hide, I want to cry. When you feel these things, that is the signal to you that you need to lean into. You need to lean into this pain, into this discomfort, into this suffering. Because when you lean into it and you realize that, okay, this hurts, but I'm not going to die, right? I'm okay, right? I'm going to survive even though this really, really hurts right now. I'm still going to be okay. And when you realize that having grit just breaks down into being able to go beyond your pain and suffering and like just like transcend what it means to be in pain and suffer, then grit becomes this really easy characteristic to have, right? People will just start to think that you have grit. You will perceive yourself as having grit because you go beyond your pain, right? You feel something, but you still keep going. You still do an extra rep. You still run the extra mile. You still put yourself through absolute torture because of the way that you're going to feel upon overcoming it, right? This is the motivator behind grit. You experience grit, you grit your teeth, right? You go the extra mile, you run the extra mile, you take the extra lap, you do the extra rep, you go for another round because of the way that you feel after pushing yourself beyond your limits. That is the grit, right? It's going above and beyond pain and suffering. You're transcending, you're actualizing your identity to being someone that goes beyond pain, that isn't impacted, influenced by pain, but is driven by pain and driven by suffering. And then the final principle is consistency. You gotta consistently put yourself in the environment, right? Like the first principle, consistently put yourself in an environment where you are forced to have grit, are forced to work hard, and then consistently go beyond your limits. Go beyond the point of no return. Go beyond pain. Go beyond suffering consistently. And you'll build the muscle of somebody that just can grit their teeth and keep going. Goodbye.